Good morning.
Morning, Amy.
I've spent trying to get some photos so I can show you stuff, but I turned off the save random pictures from WhatsApp to my photos. I turn it off because I kept getting I'd go through my photos and I'd be so confused about all the random stuff that other people had sent me. And now it turns out it's complete extreme opposite. And now that my sister has sent me some photos on WhatsApp, I cannot for the life of me work out how to save them. So anyway, it's gonna be a non-photographic update, which is a shame.
I had the same issue last time. I think you need to share, at least on iPhones, you need to share and then select something
Really?
to put it into your photos. Yeah.
Okay, that's the trick. Okay. Nice. Cool. Okay, welcome everyone. It's just the four of us today, but just to go through. Henry, is there any additional stuff you want to call out on MTTP? Thanks for popping that in the agenda.
Yeah, I missed this last time, so I thought I'd put it in this time. And just wanted to note that I think we can really see the effect of Green doing deployments in APAC now.
Yeah.
So this really shows off that we have better numbers, like we have more deployments and also better MTTP now. And the only thing that slowed us down a little bit, I think, is yesterday that I didn't deploy as much to gprod because we looked for web and how it reacted to AppDex. So, but that was expected. So overall, I think we are pretty good now.
Great stuff. Yeah, I need to catch up on doing the deployment blockers numbers. So what we've been seeing over the last few months as we've done these is there's a fairly standard baseline of deployment blockers that we experience. It's probably 15 hours a week is my guess, is just what we normally have. And so on weeks or months, I guess, where we have significantly more than that, we see it on MTTP. But what we should see in terms of kind of being able to reduce MTTP further is there's two real ways at the moment that we can clearly do that. One is faster deployments, which we get through Kubernetes, but unfortunately the new staging stuff kind of goes against faster deployments. But the actual really big one, I think, is going to be fewer incidents or fewer blocking incidents. So the new staging stuff hopefully improves that. So I think we'll most likely see way more failures on staging. And so a little bit more disruption there. But what we should see is if we go beyond staging, things just move through more quickly, more easily. Which is faster to resolve an incident on staging. So I'm hoping that once we've got everything in place and worked out, that we should see MTTP come down a bit further.
Just quickly, I had a chat with Eliseo just before, and he actually also gave me some ideas, bouncing ideas off him about the Kate's Workloads repo and how to increase. We both had ideas, I guess, on the blockers. So this is not to do with this is just we have deployment blocker, when the pipelines fail, what are the reasons that are failing? And so I've called out some reasons we can make that quicker. He had some good ideas as well to make things a little bit safer. So I think we've got some other pieces that can be broken out into issues to improve that part. We should see MTTP go down. Obviously moving web into Kubernetes will lower the time, but also the amount of blockers. We do have often web failure. We anything that runs in VMs does give us, I think, at least the occasional breakdown of pipelines, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Disk fall or something. We can, that reliability, not necessarily the performance, should keep to improve as we do that stuff as well. So I think improving some of the reliability pieces of that repo, the Kubernetes deployment piece, and the fact that it should be more reliable in VMs should help with blockers. The only other thing I just wanted to point out very quickly, and this can kind of be a side discussion, is so there'll be times when I do deploys during my day that it's I could have actually deployed an hour earlier, but I get distracted and I forget. But the baking time notices, if they could somehow be if this is a baking time complete notice that's during my working hours, if it could also notify me, I could actually be quicker to kicking off deploys, I guess.
So
is the
what
thing.
we don't have at the moment, we should work out how disruptive it's going to be for you. We guess we could just put that logic on. The other way is we break out the release management schedule. So at the moment we display EMEA, and then we have EMEA/APAC. We could split that out into the 3 time zones and list you on that, Graham. It means you'll get every release manager ping.
Yeah, so yeah. Sorry, I'm not sure if I want to be on the release management handle per se, or I'm happy to once I feel confident in all the release management activities that I could be called upon. But it was just an idea, even just like bolting on some awkward logic to just ping me. Or could I even add myself to that and unadd? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, we should look at it. We could probably put a Slack notification on and just have it timed so that on around about when that baking time should come in for you, Graham, we could just ping you and say like, check the baking time. But
obviously it's not a huge issue, but it's just like there was like other time where 3 hours because I just was so distracted with other work, right? And I have to actually go into that channel and check the messages without the ping. I lost 3 hours where I could have promoted 3 hours ago, and it's not a big thing, but it helps with that. Trying to keep that time down. So
for sure.
I mean, the baking time should be done around the same time each day, right? Plus minus.
Look, it should. And you're trusting me to remember, I guess. I could wire up my own automation.
We could just maybe set up a reminder for each day, 1 hour after the usual baking time thing that is pinging you or something like that, as a very boring solution.
That's not a bad idea. Maybe the low tech solution is the best solution. So yeah, maybe that's an option I should look into as well.
Yeah, because if you don't immediately deploy, I think it's not a big issue, but if after an hour you look at it and each day, then already that would be, I think, good, and you don't need to think about it all the time.
Yeah.
And in most cases it should be there and ready, waiting, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it all contributes. So like, as close as we can get to that baking time coming in, but we'll have a think about it. Like, let's work out what you want to do there, so we can.
Look, I'll give it a try, and if I feel it's still not working, I'll raise an actual issue, and we can get someone to actually.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Awesome. So lots of PTO stuff coming up in the next few days, so mostly just be aware of that. On the discussion item, so I wanted to chat a little bit about staging, because staging is in progress. The project is well underway. It's not a delivery project, so that none of us are actually kind of actively involved in the work, but we are going to see some of these things, and we certainly will want to kind of give some guidance, I think, on the wiring in of both the staging canary and also the staging, it's not called 10K anymore, it's maybe staging ref or something, environment. So the rough idea for this project is it's kind of a rapid action following several incidents that come from the mixed deployment problem as we deploy through Canary and production. So as the simplest version, it's to stand up a staging Canary, and hopefully that catches the bulk of the stuff. But alongside this, there is also a lot of limitations to existing staging. So Quality have a kind of parallel project, I guess, where they're going to stand up a reference architectured staging alongside existing staging, and try and get good at like standing up, tearing down, get environments, and sorting out data and accounts and stuff like that. So for now, that one won't massively affect us, but I expect that these two projects together, neither is probably going to be the perfect solution. So I would expect that in the future, there is kind of another iteration where a better version of staging comes into existence. On Staging Canary, though, at the moment, I believe, like, I don't know, Graham, how much if you've spent chatting to Pierre about this, but at the moment, it seems to only be focusing on the Kubernetes stuff.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if there's just a misunderstanding of requirements, because Pierre, I think, is, I mean, I can't speak for him fully, obviously, but from what the headspace and what I'm seeing is he's just focusing on the Kubernetes side and nothing else. I think he would like the guidance. I mean, I certainly would like the guidance. Do we need Gitly and Prefect? Like a staging Gitly and Prefect node, because they're going to have to be net new nodes, I think. Like, we just don't have a concept of them at the moment. Even just, I saw the MR come through to actually like do the Kubernetes, like hit the button and deploy it all in Kubernetes. But I'm still, I want to have a close look at that because I'm curious how this is going to affect auto deploy straight away. Like the last thing I want this to do is Pierre merges that and, you know, just get something wrong because, you know, it's difficult to get right the first time. And then that blocks all our deployment pipelines because now, like, I don't want it not in the main pipeline, but I guess I kind of do not want it in the main pipeline. I guess I would like to see a stronger plan on deploying it is one thing. When are we wiring it in so it's not going to block auto deploys? Because I'm not confident it's going to come up and be ready. So I don't want it to block straight away. Okay.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
So it's a separate task. So it might be worth just spending a little time on the issues then. So we have basically the issues to stand up the canary, and then there's another issue to wire it in. So yeah, if we could make it so that it doesn't affect things until wired in, then that would be great.
Yeah, I think that's what I really want to double check because it's very easy, especially like even like I know the repo well and I know it's very easy to just.
It once, so yeah.
Yeah, it's so easy to just by enabling it, it automatically gets wired in, and that's what I don't want. So I need to. I'm actually chatting with him tomorrow about this project, but on a different topic, which is HA proxy and stuff.
Okay.
But the end result will be, I'll try and close that loop to make sure that he can spin it all up, but just we don't want, I don't want it part of the deployment pipeline.
Exactly. Yeah. Henry, do you want to verbalize?
Yeah, just for the question for GitLab, I mean, we have Canary GitLab in production, right? And so I think it makes sense to also have the same in Canary staging. I think we want to have it as same as production as we can, right? Just to find everything and also to be able to test our configurations. But I think this could be complex because then we also need to involve these special routing rules. We need to maybe move repositories over to the new GitLab node because we have our GitLab project on the Canary node in production. And I think we want to have the same then in staging. So I could think that this is some work to be done. So maybe it's on a next iteration then. We don't need to have this from the beginning, I guess. That would be more important to have it if we want to really be close to our production setup from configuration side, but not from alpha beta testing or something like that.
Oh, even on the mixed deployment. So I don't think GitLab is especially, in fact, I know GitLab is not very backwards compatible. So actually, like we certainly have mixed deployment problems around GitLab and Prefect as well.
Yeah.
So we're saying it's actually really important then.
I think it would be really important, but actually I think Henry's totally right that it doesn't have to be the first iteration. So perhaps we do the Kubernetes, wire that, and then we could do GitLab and wire that.
Are we expecting then a test suite to be run against Canary staging?
Yes, Zeph is working on a
will
test
that
suite.
Be another entire test suite repo, like just for my mental model? Like there's the okay, cool.
Yeah, I believe so. And I'm not sure how necessary that is. Like in my mind, I was thinking that we could have run the existing Smoke ones, but run them in parallel. So what we don't get for free is like on production, we deploy to Canary, but we have people using production. And we could simulate the same with the staging Canary and staging and have a deployment to staging and run tests against staging at the same time. But Zeph's actually putting in either some additional tests. I think it's going to be an additional Canary test suite that would run as using cookies to kind of simulate this. But yeah, I think it would be great if we got to a stage where the staging Canary deployment pipeline looked as close to the gprod Canary pipeline as we could get. But we can do it as iterations as well. So how about I open an issue to add in GitLab. Cool. And then we can do that. Cool. And then on the staging 10K piece, it's not called that. I don't know what the name is. I'm sorry. The goal of this longer term is that they're going to practice tearing down and recreating the environment. Now, I'm a little unclear as to how disruptive this will be. Like this version of it should end up being relatively stable and kind of a long-lived Get environment that lives alongside staging. But I did hear in the kickoff video that Mech recorded, he was talking about like that one of the benefits of having this environment is we'll get to learn a lot about tearing down and creating. So there is a chance that when we come to deploy to this environment, it's not actually there. So when we wire this in, right, depending on when it gets torn down and who tears it down and when it gets stood up again, that can be out of sync, I think, with our deployments. So when we come to wire this in, we may want to, I mean, maybe this is a non-blocking failure or something like that. Like I think this one could be quite disruptive.
Can't this be totally separate from what we are doing? Because I'm not in the details that much, but the last time I looked at the Get environment, it wasn't able to be upgraded without downtime, right? So you really needed to have a downtime to upgrade through all of the things because there was no rolling update functionality or something. So it really was meant to tear it up with a version and run tests against it, like performance tests, and then tear it down again. And if you need it again, you then create it again with a newer version maybe. And so I think what we want to do with this special environment maybe is really run QA tests against the specific version of GitLab and maybe performance tests. But this all sounds like performance and QA, right? And not really that much related to what we are doing with rolling upgrades and auto deployments, right?
Well, no. So the only thing about that, no, is it's going to have its own additional test suite. So the idea is it will run in parallel. So there is a point there will end up being a point in the deployment pipeline. I say there will. The current plan, there'll be a point in the deployment pipeline where probably at the point we deploy into Canary, there's also a splinter and it deploys to the Get environment. Then there are tests running. And then the idea is at the end of the staging deployment, all of the results come back together and tests must have passed on Get as well as on staging. So there's going to be different tests running on Get, and that's because they're putting different test data in, and they can test admin. It gives them far greater testing capabilities, but that's going to add a little bit of complexity.
But I think correct me if I'm wrong, Henry, what you're saying is like, the distinction here is, do we want to update a running Get environment, or do we actually want to, at an auto deploy time, cut a version, but they actually spin up a whole Get environment off that version, run tests and tear it down. So there's never a Get environment that is quote unquote updated or continuously deployed to.
Yeah.
It's the artifact that they use to build that environment. To me, that sounds like probably what they want.
Yeah, no, that's possibly fine. Yeah, no, that's possibly fine. I don't know how they'll exactly, but yeah, either one of those I think is totally fine.
In which case should it then, all we have to do is just like say, hey, here's the new auto deploy image version, and then I don't know what they do for Get, but they must control their own system for creating a new environment, right? And feed
we would wire that in. We would wire that in because what we need to do at the end is come back, and the test results will feed back into our staging deployment.
So
I mean, whenever we get a new package, we can just trigger something to get an environment spun up and then run all the test suites that they have in there.
Yep.
And then we just need to see how the results flow back into the pipeline at some point, and if they should be blocking or not, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
I mean, at the beginning, maybe they shouldn't even be blocking. So if we can get experience, we can just collect this somewhere in an issue or in a QA Slack channel, right? And then later we can decide at which point we want to make it blocking if we don't meet any performance goals or see other degradations maybe. But I think just triggering it to run it in parallel but not blocking us maybe would be the best first start for that. And then we can see how we use it to block on certain points.
Yeah, I think that's a good point.
But this is all on the assumption that we can't upgrade Get. Like if they put something in that is able to just do rolling upgrades in it now, maybe then that changes plans again. Yeah. I'm not sure about that.
But even if they do, the question is that what they want us to test? You know, do they? Because I feel like part of the reason for this is they say, oh, the existing staging environment has got all bad data. Like long-lived environments is something they deliberately sound like they're not wanting with this. In which case, I guess the question.
Not so sure. Like I'm not sure. Okay. I think it's probably going to be around the Get capabilities, probably rather than whether it's long-lived or not. I guess probably a goal at some point that the stage groups will do testing against Get environments,
Sure.
because they'll give admin testing capabilities, which we don't have right now.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Fair enough.
So yes, that's a good point. Let's try and get this non-block. It's going to be a lot of stuff in this one. That one will follow a little further. So Canary will be the first piece. I'm not sure how far away we are from the Get stuff. There's some database provisioning work and things like that going on that needs to happen as well. Henry.
Yeah, I just want to note that one thing that is making me nervous a little bit about the new environments is that this is nothing new, but whenever we spin up new nodes and they end up not being fully configured because of some errors or problems, then they are in Chef, and we, in our Ansible deployment scripts, we source inventory from Chef and to get nodes. And if they show up there but are not fully configured, then we run into all kind of problems that can block our deployment pipelines. Like yesterday, there was a new staging Canary deploy node, which was, sourced in the migrations job, but GitLab wasn't running on it, so it couldn't get facts from it, and then the job just failed and stopped there, which didn't break anything, but breaking deployments at this point. And we also had this with new web nodes, for instance, or stuff like that before, if they are not fully configured. And in this case, we need to just remove them from Chef with a simple knife command, and then we can go on. But this maybe could happen more often now with this. And also, I'm wondering what is happening if in the database migrations job, we now see 2 deploy nodes instead of just 1. If that would have worked with a new deploy node, would we just have run the migrations 2 times or something? I'm not sure what would have been the end result in there. So we need to see how Ansible is reacting to this if a new Canary node is showing up with a role which is putting it into the inventory there. So I'm really not sure what can happen there. So we need to be prepared that something shows up maybe. And in this case, we should just remove them from Chef, stop Chef client, so that they don't get in again by themselves. And then ping people to fix that, or look into Ansible how we can separate this out, that this doesn't happen in the inventory. Yeah, it would be good to also ask Jarv about this, because I think he is mostly into the Ansible inventory and how it works. Yeah, just as a heads up.
Yes. Would you mind opening an issue, Henry? Just generally about the fact that when new nodes come up and they're not fully configured, like we have this, and then we can actually see if people have any ideas, because maybe it's just something like we put into the MR template, or maybe we do need to change something in Ansible or Chef or something like that to make this less blocking. But we're seeing it at the moment, but it's not unique to this, and we'll certainly have it in the future. So it might be good to actually work out how we solve this.
Yeah, I will open issue 2, discuss this with Jarv for the new envs, and then maybe an MR documentation to handle this. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks for that. And then just as a heads up, I'll add a comment on the issue as well. But yesterday in the registry sync, we also realized that the Get version of these environments will have its own database. It won't be using the staging databases. Registry is bringing in a new database. It's not going to be in the reference architecture. So I'll add a comment. Jarv is leading most of that work around the Get database provisioning. But just as a kind of heads up, if we do see problems there, that we may need to, I think it's going to probably be a kind of a quality /Jarv / Alejandro as the people involved in the Get project and standing up the registry database. But we may just need to, just as a heads up, that this could also be another thing. Cool. And then just in the last few minutes, I just want to give a brief hiring update. So as you all know, in fact, we filled our backend position with this wonderful backend developer called Ruben. So welcome. That was a nice, easy hire. And we also have an open SRE position. And so that is officially open now. We have a candidate who was interviewed for a different SRE position who did pretty well, got some really good scores in the interviews, was considered to be a little bit too didn't quite have as much experience as needed for the role that they were interviewing for, but things are looking pretty good for it being a good fit for delivery as a candidate with like relevant experience, a good fit for what we do, coding experience, as well as some SRE experience. So I'm just going through and putting things in place now, but I'm hoping we could get this all approved today or tomorrow and make an offer to potentially fill our SRE position as well. So that hopefully is an exciting one, and hopefully we'll fill both these positions without needing to do any extra interviews. So that would be great. Now, there may be other positions coming up in the future. So if you do hear of people who, one of the downsides is we didn't open up either of these two positions kind of internally. So if you are aware of anyone when you're coffee chatting who perhaps feels like, I wish, I would have loved to have had that opportunity, please do let them know that quite likely through Q4 and next year, both backend and SRE positions will continue to become available in delivery. Like, just surely based on our workload, like I could expect the team to keep on growing. Super. So I shall stop recording.